Welcome back to another episode of Gumball Love. I'm your host, Melissa Roberts, formerly Melissa Ledger. I'm officially married, you guys, and I did a whole episode for next week about the wedding and all the juicy details. But this week, I actually recorded this right after the wedding. I want you to meet Christina Lecuyer. She is a success coach, confidence coach, and business coach. She is a former golf pro, and her story is so interesting. She was in the middle of the height of her golf career. She was on the Golf Channel. She's been in reality shows. Look her up at ChristinaLecuyer.com. We'll put all of the links in the show notes. She's a fireball. She's high energy. You can just see how she was able to own it in what might be seen as somewhat of a man's world. Although women are making huge waves in golf, and she has been on the PGA Tour. She's been with the multi-billionaires on the golf course, and she's rubbed shoulders with all of the who's who. But guess what? It wasn't what she wanted to do. And she didn't even really like golf. Can you imagine? You're at the top of your game. You're beautiful. You have all of these things going for you. You're actually on the Golf Channel in your own reality show. And you're like, this isn't what I want to do. She was battling an eating disorder and so much more. And now she is a coach, and her motto is decide it's your turn. And what it's like to make a decision of, you know what, this is the life that I think I'm supposed to be living, but it's not what I actually want to do. And really coming to terms with how you feel on the inside versus what you're projecting to everybody else. So I know we can all relate to this, and I hope that you can just capture some of the energy and you feel just like ready to, you're going to feel like you've had like 3 cups of coffee after listening to Christina, because she really brings her energy. And I want you at the end of this to decide it's your turn for. What is it your turn for? What decisions do you need to make that will be a turning point in your life? Maybe you can relate to her on so many levels. I know I could, and I was just blown away. So without further ado, here is Christina Lecuyer. So welcome to the show, Christina. I'm so excited to have you here. And I just want to dig right into your story, because you are bubbling with confidence, and this is what you teach. You're a confidence and success coach. But I want to hear like how this started, because you were playing golf professionally. So tell us like how that happened and how you became a professional golfer to start. Was that in your early childhood?
Yeah, girl. So first of all, thank you for having me. I'm super grateful to be here. I love that you were over on my podcast as well. We had a great time. So I know this is going to be perfect. I'll take you back a little bit further. So I always kind of start my story at 18 years of age. Up until I was 18, pretty much normal life. Grew up in Canada, daughter, 2 brothers, normal life. When I was 18, I always say 2 things happened to me, and some people like snicker a little bit, but I got really good at golf and I got really good looking at the exact same time. And I kind of laugh at that, but it's so true. And what happened when I was 18, it was the first time in my whole entire life I got validation, external validation. I got noticed. So I became really good at golf and I got really good looking at the exact same time. And all of a sudden, everyone was kind of giving me what I called like the atta girls, like, you're so pretty, you're so good, your life's going to be amazing, like everything's going to work out for you, like how lucky are you? And I started getting this external validation. And it was the first time in my life I'd ever really experienced that. And I became addicted to it, the 100% addiction to the external validation. I was like, this feels amazing. How do I get more of this? And unfortunately, I went down the road for the next 10 plus years of my life of trying to get that next hit of external validation. And what that led to was an eating disorder. It led to hating myself, not knowing who I was, not believing I had a purpose outside of the way I looked and how I played golf, basically my career. During that time, I went to college. I was an All-American. I was great in school. I magna cum laude or whatever the heck it was called. Like I did all the things, right? Because I was always trying to check the boxes. Then I started playing professional golf. I was getting more checking the boxes. I started having a television career. I was modeling. I was making good money doing corporate events, but I was still living on the external validation and getting those hits because I was, appraised for all of the things that I was doing outside of myself. When I was about 27, 28 years old, I hit my rock bottom. I had a horrible eating disorder. I hated myself, knew I was going to lose my relationship with my now current husband. I've been with him for 19 years and I had been dating him for probably 5 or 6 years at that time, probably maybe even longer than that. And I knew I was kind of at a rock bottom moment where I knew that there was other people on this planet way happier than me that had a lot less than I did. And I was like, how is that fucking possible? Like, how are these people happier than me? And they have so much less than I did. Outside looking in, I had a perfect life.
How did you know that? Like, what was that signal to you? Because, my platform is about getting those hits and about that attention seeking behavior and being addicted to it. But I always tell my clients, there's two different kinds of people. There's people that can see it, make the differentiate and decide to change it. And there are people that don't. So you could have lived forever in that world of looking for that external validation, or the sugar high is what I call it. So, but how did you make that? Because this is what a lot of my clients ask, how do people change? So I'm just curious was there something in that moment that made you see other people are happy with a lot less? Like, do you remember anything at that time?
I think there was a couple things. The first thing I remember, and this is like crazy, but I'll just tell you the honest to God truth. I remember being over top the toilet, probably puking like the 50th time. And something kind of happened that day where I knew my body wasn't going to do it one more time. And I remember praying, and I now live in the Southern United States, the Bible Belt. I grew up in Canada. I had no faith growing up, none, but I had been around it for probably, 6 or 7 years at that point in time. And I didn't believe in God. I didn't really know anything, but I knew that my willpower had got me to where I was. And it got me far in a lot of regards, but it wasn't getting me unstuck. It wasn't getting me out of my current situation. And I remember just praying that day, like just not even praying, because I didn't even know what that was. I remember just saying, something, if you exist, you got to help me, because I have tried to stop this for so many times and I can't do it. And I remember it was kind of a combination between that. And then I met one of my mentors. He's still one of my best friends. He's been on my podcast before. He is a not so famous golf professional. So he's probably one of the most highly underrated, best golf instructors in the world. His name is Justin Pointer. And I met him when I was being paid to basically like stand at a booth at a golf event to sign autographs, because I was quote unquote like a celebrity at the time. Mm-hmm. And I met him and he had such a faith and he had such a calmness and he had such a beautiful outlook on life. Like still to this day, when I message him, and by the way, he's single. So ladies. I know this is a podcast, but he had such a calmness about life. And every day when you text him, even still to this day, he literally says he has the greatest life on the planet because he just chooses it every single day. He's so blessed. And I started diving into my faith. I just started like believing that there was something outside of myself. And then at that moment, I think someone gave me a book called The Gifts of Imperfection. And I started reading The Gifts of Imperfection. And then yeah. Oh, it's fantastic. It's Gabby Bernstein's book.
Gabby Bernstein. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. All right. The Gifts of Imperfection. I started reading that. And then I started listening to Joel Osteen, the feel-good preacher who was on Oprah. And then I started like watching YouTube videos. And this was, obviously way before, like not before social media, but like before Instagram was a big deal and things. I was watching like YouTube videos and I just started becoming obsessed with the power of changing your mind. And I was like, okay, so literally I have control of my life and I am the only person on the planet that can decide. And my brand now has decided it's your turn, but I am the only person on the planet who can decide my life. Like everything that's happening around me, it's just happening, but I get to decide whether it's good or bad, or if I'm happy or sad, or what my decision is, what my action is. And it had nothing to do with people outside of myself. And that was like a light bulb moment for me. I was totally blown away. I was like, are you kidding me? Like I control my reality, because I always thought that everything outside of myself was controlling the situation, but it was really me who was in control. So really it was like that year that I was like, I'm going to lose everything. And I know that other people are much happier. And what are they doing? And for me, it was the gratitude. It was the mindset. It was the choices that they were making. It was the things that they were saying to themselves. And I started with simply, like, honestly, I always tell my clients, I changed my life on a sticky note. Still to this day, like I don't know if this is video, but like I have sticky notes everywhere. My whole entire life was changed on a sticky note because I just decided to start telling myself, honestly, I brainwashed myself. I was like, okay, I've been telling myself I'm a piece for the last 20 something years. I'm just going to tell myself I'm Great. And because that's my decision. I'm just going to tell myself that I'm worthy because that's my decision. I'm just going to start telling myself all the things that I have to be grateful for. And I just became obsessed with it. And slowly but surely, over the next probably 4 to 5 years, my life almost 180'd. And I just became so much happier and so much more grateful. And I was starting to attract amazing into my life that before everything was so negative and I was so worried what everyone was thinking and like, was I going to be good enough and make the money and look a certain way and play golf forever? Because my whole identity was attached to how I looked, how much money I was making and playing golf. That was it. That like, I believed once those 3 things were over, my life was over. Like literally, I believed that. And I had to retrain myself. And slowly but surely I did. And, fast forward, people just started coming to me and saying, how did you go from what you were doing to what you are now? And over the years, my confidence changed. And I started when I really stepped into my confidence was when I started hosting corporate and charity golf events. So I figured out I actually didn't really like golf that much. I just happened to have 3 things that I did pretty well. I looked a certain way, obviously. I played golf pretty well, but my real passion was human connection. My real passion was getting to know other human beings and helping them become better versions of themselves because I was obsessed with changing my life. So I started hosting corporate and charity golf events. So basically corporations and companies started hiring me to play golf with executives. They thought they were playing golf. It was just a golf thing, but really, I probably had some of the most intimate conversations with human beings on the golf course, and they were extremely successful human beings. So I always say like my path from golf to coach, people can't really make the connection, but the fact that I have clients who are billionaires and I learned so much from them over the years, obviously has, helped me in what I do today.
Wow. That's an amazing story. I'm just curious of what was making you feel so low before? Like, was there a journey in your childhood or something that was making you feel like, where do you feel like that low confidence was from the beginning?
Because it came from everything outside of myself. It came from not who I was. It came from what I was doing. And I think even still to this day, like you think about so many people who are like, I'll be happy when I lose 50 pounds. I'll be happy when I get married. I'll be happy when I have kids. I'll be happy when I get the executive job. And it was always like a when. I mean, I will like to this day, I probably still have a photo somewhere where I used to take photos of the scale because I was always like, when I hit 120, like when I break 100, I'm 5'10", almost 5'11". So I was like at 129 pounds, I was probably like skin and bones. But I was like, when I hit 128, when I hit 125, I will be happy. I will be happy. When I, hit 6 figures, hit $1 million, I will be happy. And it came from everything outside of myself. I had to learn to like myself, let alone fucking love myself, like myself outside of what I was doing.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That is powerful. Okay. So then you were on the golf course and you were helping these executives. And then was there a moment where you said, like, I guess there's a point where I'm sure you still play golf, but you stopped playing professionally, right? You decided to start this other business. So how did you go into coaching from golf?
Yeah, totally. So great question. I think I was playing golf professionally and then I knew I wasn't the best in the world. And I knew I really didn't want to play golf. Like I was only playing golf because people told me that was the thing that was going to make me happy. I was going to be rich. I was going to be famous. I was going to be successful. I was miserable. I was so mean to myself. If I played bad, I made myself throw up 1,000 times. If I played good, I made myself throw up only 5 times. Like it was all based on external. Like, I mean, I had a lot of good days and a lot of good experiences and traveled the world and all the things. But like overall, I was doing it because I thought that was the only way to make myself happy. But then I got, a little bit of, ended up doing a television show, which it was a great experience and it was part of my journey. I truly, there's 3 pillars to my business: decision, faith, and action. And my faith part is now I can see it so clearly that every single step along the journey, like I don't take back one single day of my life because it's gotten me to where I am today. But like getting on this reality shows on the Golf Channel then got me the notoriety to start doing these corporate events. And the corporate events started to bring me a lot more joy because I was around humans and I was connecting with humans. And I was brightening their day, even though it was golf, but I was connecting with people. And I remember every single person I connected with, they always said like, I made them feel better. I made them feel more confident. And women were always so curious how I was so confident, because I was commanding like $10,000 a day. Like I was so fucking confident on my worth of like the value that I brought on the golf course. And women were always like, how are you so confident in a man's world? How can you, like, I had clients who were literally like top, I don't know, maybe top 50 in the world, like billionaires. Like I flew on private planes, like I did fun, awesome things, but how was I so confident around like seemingly successful businessmen and held my own and like didn't have to sleep with them? You know what I mean? Like, how is that possible? And I think I just started understanding that like I had a gift that I could help other women with these things. And I started out just thinking, okay, because people always like how it started, honestly, was people like, hey, can I pick your brain? Hey, can I ask you for coffee? Hey, how did you go from where you were to where you are now? And slowly but surely I was like, and I was paying coaches and going to events and hiring, going to masterminds and doing all the things. And I thought, well, I'm paying these people like tens of thousands of dollars each year. Maybe people would pay me. And that's literally how my business organically started. I was like, I saw a need and I started to serve it. And then, I started doing mastermind groups, women mastermind groups. Mastermind, for those who don't know, it's like-minded people coming together to accelerate growth. Like you want to be around, like you want to be around people who've got their together. Get in a group with people who got their together. On my podcast, the Decide It's Your Turn podcast, I have an episode called I Paid for My Friends. And I do like, I have 100% certainty that like, I'll pay to be in certain rooms because that will fast forward my growth and fast forward my abundance. And that's just what I want to do. But, I just started being around like-minded people. I started being around more positive people. And then people started coming to me. It's the law of attraction, kind of similar to things that you teach, right? If you want to attract a great energy, be the great energy. And I just started changing and I started attracting people wanting to be like me and wanting to have the abundance for life. And then slowly but surely, the business just really started to take off. People just wanted to work with me. And, obviously I took a lot of the lessons that I learned on the golf course, being surrounded by really successful business people, and now have taken those to this industry where I can use the lessons that I've had, not only from the golf industry, but for the last 5 years of doing this to help people, decide it's their turn to live their greatest, most passionate, profitable life.
Mm-hmm. And as I'm listening to you, it's like you already had your husband in your life. So you were doing all these things just to attract better people, which we were talking off air about how the husband doesn't make you happy, and that's not going, just because you have a good relationship, a romantic relationship in your life doesn't mean that all these other things come together. And so you're the evidence of that. You already had your husband in your life. When did you guys get married?
We got married only 11 years ago, but we've been together 19 years. And when we first got together, he was one of the first people that knew I had an eating disorder. Like I was a complete mess. And I will always say, like, I am so blessed that I had a person who stuck with me, because I remember specifically, we were probably maybe 5 or 6 years into our relationship. And I remember 100% the night that it was like, the nail was like put into the coffin, where it was like, either Christina, you got to fix or you're going to lose this. And it was just that moment. It was like one of those like over the toilet moments where I was like, I have to fix myself, because I did not want to lose him. He's the greatest thing. I could cry. He's the greatest thing in my whole entire life, but I had to fix me in order for our relationship to be fixed. And I just started working on myself. And he was just like, you do whatever you need to do. Like, I'll support you, but I'm not in for this any longer. And I think that I'm just so grateful that he was willing to stick with me while I fixed myself. And it took years, and I'm still a constant journey. I will say I have the greatest life ever because I decided every single day, but I started healing myself. And then I started to outgrow my husband, because people ask me all the time, how did I get my husband on board? Because, on social media, my handle on Instagram is Be Christina, because I encourage everyone to be their self. But if you follow me over there, you'll see my husband on my feed all the time. And the number one question I get is, how did Nathan get on board with your self-development? How did Nathan get on board? And the answer is, like, I started to outgrow him. And he definitely was ahead of me in the beginning, but then I started to outgrow him. And he kind of had that come to Jesus moment, and where he said, she's kind of outgrowing me and I need to work on myself now. And I didn't tell him. He just knew he had to do something. And now we're just growing together. I've had harder seasons. He's had harder seasons, but our work together to become better humans is the reason why I believe we have one of the greatest marriages ever.
I love that. You're making me cry. It's like wedding week. It's so emotional.
Yes, exactly.
Like,
so real.
Anything with somebody else cry, you have a cute cry face. So I was like, oh no, I can't hold it in.
So funny.
That is so beautiful. I mean, what a journey of triumph, and you have such fortitude to just dig in there and do the work. And so I think that's so. People just think it comes easily to people look at people in relationships and they just think, oh, she's married, she's got it all together. And what on the outside, it can look that way. But I so appreciate you sharing that, because I think, everybody thinks all these other people have it so easy, and most people really don't. I mean, most people are working their asses off to have what they have, and you have to look at the ugly stuff in yourself. I mean, therapy is a lot of that. Okay, I don't really want to look at this, but I'm going to look at it anyway and force myself to overcome all of these things. And man, what an incredible, you are overcoming it while in the spotlight too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what was that like to be in constant, you are on TV, you're with all these executives and in all of these situations where you have to perform, but you're also working on yourself. Was that difficult, or how was that process for you, kind of being in the spotlight while also working on yourself that much?
Yeah. And it's so interesting too, because people always used to say to my husband, like, oh, you're so lucky. You're so lucky. And like, because I looked a certain way, because I was I looked good, and I was, I'm 6 years younger than him. And also because I had this golf career, and people were always like, oh, how do you put up with her just, traveling around and doing all the things? And like, I did have a great life, but, from behind the scenes, it's like, wow, people had no idea. Like the roles were actually like, how did he put up with me was probably more of the situation, to be honest with you. But yeah, I mean, the number one core value is unconditional love, integrity, and honesty. And throughout our whole 19 years, a knock on wood, but I don't think I've ever lied to him one day. And I don't think that he's ever done that to me either. And that's just been like the forefront. We've always just kind of been very open and honest. We're both hard workers. We're both willing to we both have strong type A personalities. We're not perfect 100%. Like we still have arguments. We've learned how to argue though. We've learned how to listen. We've learned to take personal responsibility. That I think is huge as well. None of it has been easy per se, but we just made it work. We've just figured out how to make it work. Like we've both got problems, but we really have a good friendship. Mutual respect, I think, is a big thing as well. I think that's a huge part of it, to be honest with you. But like in the beginning, I just truly believe I hit the jackpot in the fact that like he didn't give up on me when I wanted to give up on me, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. I want to bring him on the podcast.
Yeah, totally. He's been on a couple of my clients have podcasts, and he's been on the podcast. He's actually great, but he's like so much different than me in the fact that like, oh my God, if you bring him on, he's so funny. You're probably going to have to submit the questions ahead of time. He's very analytical. Do you know Enneagram?
No.
Oh my God, you should use Enneagram for your clients. It's really, really helpful knowing your Enneagram, but he's an Enneagram 1. And for any of your listeners who know, like he is so like, if maybe, I don't know, like, okay, for instance, I can probably guess which one you are. I'm like, seriously, like I'm an Enneagram 3. It's just like, I don't really give a shit. I'm like winging everything. He's the person who like, if we get something in the mail and we have to put it together, he's going to read like every instruction from like 1 to 10. He's going to like get all the tools. I'm like, no, I can put a chair together. It's totally fine.
Look, it just goes right through here like this.
Yeah, exactly. These are extra pieces. Yeah. He's very, very like follow the rules. So he definitely needs questions ahead of time.
Yes. Ian is the same way. He's always have them submit things in advance. I'm like, they may not think of them in advance.
No,
they'll just show up and ask them. Just wing it.
Totally. That's the best way I show up.
Yeah. So what would you tell, like right now on this podcast, you're talking to mostly single women that are really struggling with confidence. They've had relationships that have put them in places where they're like, you know what, I don't feel like this person's made me feel terrible about myself. I don't know that I can find love. This all sounds great, but what would you say to a girl that is in that position who's struggling with confidence? I don't know what your main go-to confidence tips are, but for someone who is single, but also just struggling with her own confidence, her own self-esteem, she's working through her own issues. What's like a good, starting point for her in your view to help lift her out of that, even just a tiny little bit? What's like the first step in your mind?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I would say, babe, here's the honest to God truth that I believe every single human is put on this planet for a God-given responsibility. And if you believe that, it's going to be so much easier for you to find love, because when you are in alignment with your God-given purpose, in God, you can call it God, source, doorknob, I don't really care. But when you are in alignment, you will attract what is needed for you in this world. Decision, faith, and action are the three things, three pillars of my business that I truly believe that will change your life. And you living in alignment with your purpose, you living in alignment with your joy, you finding out what it is on this planet that makes you come alive will 100% allow you to attract the most perfect human for you. There's no question about it. You cannot dodge that, ladies. I promise you, I promise you. Get obsessed with healing yourself. Become obsessed with healing yourself, gaining your confidence, your self-worth. The number one thing to gain confidence is to keep promises to yourself. So the example I use all the time is this. If you are a woman who, says every single day, I'm not going to drink wine, or I'm going to go to the gym, but every day you don't go to the gym or you drink wine, you are literally telling yourself every single day that it can't keep a promise to itself, that you can't trust yourself. So start with small, tiny little decisions every single day to build your confidence. You and I were talking about it earlier. Confidence is a muscle. The more that you use it, the stronger it will become. So for instance, the wine thing, if you literally say to yourself, I'm not drinking wine tonight, and you go drink wine with girlfriends, literally you're hurting your confidence. So keep a tiny promise to yourself. Literally, it doesn't matter what happens. Like right now I'm on a program called 75 Hard, and I promise you can't drink alcohol, follow diet, the whole deal, right? You could put a gun to my head. I'm not going to drink wine. Like I'm that decided on the decision. And guess what? Every single day, I feel like a badass. I'm getting more and more confident every single day, because I know that if I tell myself I'm going to do something, I'm absolutely 100% going to do it. So figure out how to keep yourself accountable to keeping small promises to yourself every single day. Maybe it's not the wine. Maybe it's drinking 5 cups of water every day. Start with something really, really small. Don't add a ton of things at one time. You're going to get overwhelmed. Do one small thing, maybe for 30 days, then do another small thing for 30 days. And you're going to compound 1% every single day is going to be like literally life-changing in a year. We forget how much we can accomplish in a year and 10 years. We think in such small increments of time. So play the long game there. Keep a promise to yourself. That's like the most important thing to gaining the confidence. Find things that you're passionate about. People always say to me, well, how do you know what you're passionate about? What is it? Like you and I have been talking now for an hour and a half, like on my podcast and yours. I could talk about this for another 10 hours. I'm so passionate about it. Find the thing, whatever it is, knitting, kids, cats. What is it that you could talk about all day long that you're super passionate about? What injustice do you see in the world? Do that. Follow that joy. There's something inside of you that you need to be doing, and you're not doing it. And you need to listen to that small, still voice. Get quiet, block out the noise, turn off social media, go for a walk, look at the sky, meditate, whatever you need to do, but tune into yourself. You know what you have to do. And then when you have the confidence, you're going to start taking those leaps of faith, those jumps. You mentioned that. Congratulations. This is your first full week in Gumball Love. You've left the corporate thing. Guess what? That took a lot of confidence building to go, you know what? I'm all in. I've made a decision. There's no 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You're in. You've jumped. Now, guess what? The faith part is like, it's totally going to support you. I can tell you're going to be unbelievably successful. You're so passionate about what you're doing. There's no way that you're going to fail.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Woo! They could just let's just keep that as a soundbite, man. I'm like, preach, girl. That was amazing. So true. I mean, Wow, I can't even top it by saying anything after. You're just on fire, girl. And it's infectious, right? Like you are amazing at what you do. And it's so true that you have to find that passion. And I was thinking too, like you have to try stuff, people think that this passion is just going to drop in their lap or, like I tried things like, I remember I knew I wanted to write, but I went to like writers groups cause I moved back to Omaha, Nebraska, my home state during COVID. And I remember just all the weird stuff I tried. And it was like, okay, these are not my people. This is a bunch of weirdos. Like this is, guy. I remember this guy came into Panera Bread and he brought like literally his whole computer and he wore sunglasses and like has keyboard out. I was just like, this is not my this ain't it. So then I had to just keep trying different things. And ballroom dancing was one of the things I tried for a little bit. And that's how I reconnected it in New York. So it's like, one of my favorite quotes is let the spirit of adventure set the tone. So just see it as an adventure and not make it so serious. I'm going to try this. I'm going to try that. You just never know. You also never know where you're going to meet your significant other too. It doesn't have to be at this pinnacle moment when you've arrived. You might meet them when you're in the middle of the mess, and that's the journey that you go on. So I think you've shown that you don't have to be perfect, and your husband stuck with you and you guys grew together, and that's your story. And then somebody else's story is completely different. But I swear we have like 10 sound bites we could pull from just that little mini monologue you did. It was absolutely amazing. How did you come up with the decide? Like, what was that's your brand, decide it's your turn. Maybe we could end on that. What inspired you to make that your brand?
Yeah, thank you. It was kind of a God thing, to be honest with you. So I was in the coaching industry pretty much full time for about a year and a half. And I was speaking at an event in San Francisco, and I met this woman who I really jammed with. We were going to do this in-person event together. And it was the hardest year of my life. It was 2018. And about 5 days right after the tickets to this event had come out, we were going to do it together. It was going to be a huge event in Austin, Texas. We were both putting in $50,000, which was a lot of money to me at the time. Yes. And she pulled out 5 days after the tickets were released. She said, this is too much work. I don't want to do it. And it was such a God moment for me to go, I had like only maybe 10 tickets sold, but like a couple of these women were like flying in from other countries. And I've never in my life, my core values in the business, like number one is integrity. And I had never quit on anything in my whole entire life. Like I just never done that. And so I was like, okay, I'll do it myself. And like the week before the event, we were coming up with names, and I was like, decide it's your turn. And once our contract was nulled, I took over the LLC. And I just, for those next 4 months, I did everything under the sun. I always say my confidence came so heavily in the business during the hardest time in my professional life. Those 4 or 5 months before the event, she canceled like January 18th, and the event was May 18th in Austin. And so like those 4 or 5 months, it was like the hardest time of my life. But every single day, I just kept taking one more decision. And, sure enough, I had 100 people, and we sold out this event in Austin, and it was the most amazing event ever. But that's where the decide it's your turn came from. And I truly believe that the hardest moment and me not giving up was the greatest blessing in my whole entire professional career in this, because I just proved to myself that like, oh my God, if I could do that, I can do anything. And that is where the decide it's your turn came from. And I would have never have worked with her. Like, and here's the thing. I had no animosity towards her. She still spoke at the event. We're friends till this day. Yeah. I just knew that it was like, it had to have been like a God thing. Like I just had to have been pushed to that brink to prove to myself that I could create this now company and this brand. But for me, it was always just about deciding. Everything's a decision. And now the pillars in the business are decision, faith, and action, because you can do anything with a decision. I think oftentimes people say they make a decision, but they don't. Like a decision is like burn the bridges, like the decision is made and you show up to that no matter what happens. Like people are like, oh, I made the decision, but then like something happens. They're like, well, we'll do something else. I'm like, no, that's not a decision. But yeah, that's where the whole decide it's your turn came from. Cause I truly believe, that on our podcast, we always say, decide it's at any moment in time, you can decide it's your turn. So, today is a Wednesday at 10:30. You can decide.
You can decide. And it really was your turn in the decision to make that you know what I mean? Like that's an incredible coincidence. Like that it was your turn to really just explode. And what a confidence builder that was.
Yeah, totally.
That was like, it reminds me of my post ballroom competition. Like once you knew you could do that, then I mean, it just opened it wide for the possibilities were endless. So that was 2018.
2018. Yeah. It was crazy.
And how did your business change from 2018 to now?
Everything's sold out.
Everything
is sold out. But I just, I started with masterminds, and then now I still do the Decide It's Your Turn mastermind. It's an online mastermind. I do 2 of those a year, January and June, 4 months. And then I do my one-on-one coaching. I do some retreats, and then we have the podcast. And that's really what I do. A lot of people in this industry think what I do is crazy because it's quote unquote hard to scale one-on-one to millions and millions of dollars. But I have a really amazing, beautiful life. I make a lot of money. I live in Arkansas. My husband makes a lot of money, but my quality of life, the experience of life is the number one thing to me. I will never give up the experience of life and my integrity and who I am on this planet and what I get to do. Like, I love my humans. I love one-on-one coaching. A lot of people just, again, programs and all the things, but for me, I just love it. I love my humans. I love what I get to do. And, I don't have, this is for your audience who decides not to have children. By choice, my husband and I did not have children. And I always tell clients who are kind of like debating that, or if they feel like the pressure to have children, I always say, like, you can leave your mark on this planet without leaving your DNA. And whether I impact 1 million people or 1,000 people, a couple thousand people or whatever, or 100 million people, it doesn't really matter. I know that I'm living in my God-given purpose. And that's the reason why, I have an abundant life.
Oh, I love that. That is amazing. So if people are like, I really want to work with you, I'm sure it's hard to get in with Christina if everything is sold out. But if people want to work with you, what are you offering right now? If I want a little bit of Christina or a lot of Christina, what would you recommend in people getting in touch with you?
For sure. Every single day, I post on social media, every single solitary day at BeChristina, BeChristina. Be Christina, because I encourage every single person to be the most authentic selves. I'm there every single day. I answer every single message myself. I have an amazing team, but my social media, I really try to take care of myself. And then the Decide It's Your Turn podcast, you can listen to that. We have an amazing guest, just like Melissa. And then to work with me, I have wait lists for one-on-one coaching, and my mastermind. I have a wait list started for our January Decide It's Your Turn mastermind, which will start in January. So we always have wait lists going. It's not like you can't get in with me for sure. I did take on one new one-on-one client this fall, and but I'm really blessed, and come connect with me. There's always a way. I don't market them, but I do 2-hour intensive sessions for people just every once. Like, I probably only do like 6 a year to kind of fit people in if they really want to work with me and I don't have a spot for it. But it's a beautiful life that I've created, and I'm super grateful for it.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, you are beautiful inside and out. I'm so honored to have you on my podcast, to be on your podcast. This has been such a wonderful, warm welcome back into work after a wedding. And I really value this conversation. You're just an amazing person. I'm so glad we got a chance to meet and spend all this time together. And I hope everyone will follow you, because my girls need you and I need you. We all need, like you said, confidence is a muscle, and you are helping people build that every single day. So thank you so much for all you do. And we will all be rushing to Instagram to follow you and listen to your podcast. So thank you so much for taking the time, Christina. I appreciate it.
Thanks, girl. I appreciate you very much. This is a much needed work, I know.
Thank you so much.